Hey guys, today I'm going to take you on a really cool trail. It's called the Old Caves Crater Trail, and it's located just northeast of Flagstaff in northern Arizona in the Coconino National Forest. Not only is this a relatively easy hike with great views of the surrounding landscape, but it is a volcanic cinder cone, and there's a number of small caves at the top that you can explore. So I did it as an out and back. It takes a little under 2.5 miles and not too much time at all. There's probably only a few hundred feet of elevation gain. That's my estimate. I don't know for sure, but it's really not too bad. It's mainly flat with a gradual uphill and then some mild switchbacks toward the end until you get to the top, and then, you get the bounty that the heavens grant you with that beautiful view once you get there. So you go through the ponderosa pine forest at first, and you can see some magnificent wildflowers depending on the season. I went at the end of September, so it wasn't really wildflower season at this point anymore, but there were still some cool things to see. The first junction that you get to, you continue straight. There's a network of trails around this cinder cone, and you could make this trail a loop if you wanted to. The trail that we go up the cinder cone doesn't have to be the trail that you come back down, but like I said, I did it as an out and back, and so I came down the way that I went up. At some point, you start to gain a little bit of elevation. It's really not bad. The ground is cindery. It's a little sandy. It's not rocky by any means. Just because it is a cinder cone, a lot of that has eroded, and you do get a little bit of a black sand sort of walking surface from time to time. It's more compacted in some places than others, but overall, it's a relatively easy surface to walk on. So we continue through the ponderosa pine forest. There's some junipers as well. It's the end of September, so all the grass has sprouted and grown to its full glory. So we keep on walking, like I said, and then you come to a couple more junctions. You follow the signs for the crater summit, because we are going to the top of that cinder cone. You see some more sites like this tree that got split apart by lightning, it looks like. That was really cool. I'll never get sick of that. I think horses use this trail. At least there was some, poop. So more wildflowers. And then as we come up to the switchback section, we come up the south side of the cinder cone. So it's a little drier. There's pinyon, juniper, pine. There's actually some alligator juniper that looks really cool, and they're quite mature, that we'll see coming up in a little bit. But we keep on going, and you see the sun going through those pines, and it really is beautiful. I did it in the evening, and it was golden. It was pretty magical. Do yourself a favor and sniff the ponderosa pine bark, only if it's a mature one that has the brownish, reddish, yellow bark. It smells like a vanilla sugar cookie. Exactly. Don't doubt me, because it's true. So we continue on. At some point, the trail becomes a little eroded, and that's just due to the runoff that occurs when it rains. There are some deeper ruts in the trail at some point, but it's manageable. We continue on the little switchbacks, and as you can see, the switchbacks are mild. They're not crazy at all. You get peaks of views from time to time, and the views will only improve, I promise. So, it's great motivation as you continue uphill. And it's a really pastoral landscape. The surrounding landscape is Doney Park, which is a residential / agricultural-ish community. Just northeast of the town of Flagstaff. And it really is quite beautiful. You look out over the San Francisco volcanic field as well. There's plenty of other cinder cones that you get a view of at certain points, and it's a great geology lesson at the same time. The entire landscape before us is a volcanic landscape. Here's another view of some of the ruts in the trail that the runoff has caused. Like I said, it's not a huge deal. But there's that big alligator juniper that really has quite the crown. It's very beautiful. You can see from the bark, that is why they call it the alligator juniper, just because of the texture of the bark. Beautiful plants, and the aesthetic of the plants changes constantly with the seasons, and that's part of the joy of coming back to a trail that you've been to before, so you can see how things have changed. This time when I walked this trail, I noticed a lot of these purple flowers that I have never noticed before, and I'm not sure exactly what they are, but it's something I'll have to look up at some point. They were pretty prolific and very beautiful. There's a view of Mount Eldon in the distance. That's the taller mountain. And then further away to the north is the San Francisco Peaks. And Humphreys Peak is the tallest peak up there. It's about 12,633 feet, making it the tallest mountain in Arizona. These are those purple flowers I was mentioning. It was very lush, very beautiful. I don't know what they are, but they were among a beautiful, beautiful juniper that looked worn, weathered, old, and phenomenal. So it's just great if you're, into botany or whatever it might be. There's some what I think looks like mint. It's funny because I see this wild plant, this plant that grows wild all across northern Arizona. It's fragrant, sort of like mint, but it's weird to me that mint would be growing wild. I guess I just didn't realize that mint grew wild in these parts of the country. So there's a view of the San Francisco Peaks, and the views become more open as the forest opens up and the trees get more stunted, basically. I mean, they are more exposed up here. It's drier up here. It's more desiccating. The ponderosa pine aren't as prolific up here on the south side of the cinder cone. As you come around to the north side of the cinder cone, the ponderosa pine forest comes back, and that's just because it's moister, it's more sheltered, I guess. It's not as desiccating as the south-facing slope, as far as the drying out of the environment goes. So this is probably the steepest part of the hike. It's the straight up part on the north side of the cinder cone. There's no switchbacks at that point. It just kind of goes linearly to the top of the cinder cone. But once you get to the top, you round the bend and you come over this crest, you have an amazing view of Doney Park. And it's crazy to think that you kind of just came from down there, because that's where the road was. After you've taken that beautiful view of the neighborhood below, you can continue up to the actual peak of the cinder cone, or at least one of the peaks of this cinder cone. And that is where we'll find our caves. But not before you turn around and take in the views of the San Francisco Peaks and everything in between. But so we ascend this little grassy knoll on the cinder cone. And you got to watch your step. At this point, it's pretty rocky. It's porous rocks that are quite sharp and hard because they're volcanic in origin. So you have to watch your step, especially as we come close to the caves, because these caves are basically just holes in the ground. And one step without looking, and you could take a tumble down into these holes in the ground, and it wouldn't be pretty. You would definitely find yourself hurt. So you got to watch your step, stay on the trail if you really don't know what you're doing, and soak in the views, because the views are beautiful. Here's a look down into one right off the trail. It's a little hard to see, but you can see that it does go down, and then it does go back under your feet, basically. That's one of the little caves. but we'll go down here and take a closer look at one. All right, here's one of those volcanic caves. We're going to take a look inside. It gets super quiet as you step inside here. And here's another cave. This one is a little more interesting because it connects to another one. Take a look. Be careful not to hit my head right there. And it looks pretty magical when you look out and see the sky from this opening of the earth. More of that mint. I don't know what the deal is. It looks like mint to me. You can see some of those caverns in the ground there. There's the one that we were just peering out of. And you can continue even further just for a more sprawling and expansive view toward the west, which is the San Francisco Peaks, the Dry Lake Hills, and then Mount Eldon. That's looking from right to left. So there we pan around from right to left. Those are all volcanic in origin, all of those topographical features. As we pan to the right, we go from the San Francisco Peaks out to a more modern volcanic field where Sunset Crater is. Sunset Crater is a national monument just northeast of Flagstaff, and it's a pretty recent volcanic eruption that it preserves. About 1,000 years ago, I believe. So people were inhabiting this area back then when it did erupt, and that caused a little bit of a disruption in their lives, I'd say. Here's more views of Doney Park, the neighborhood where we originated from, at least where we parked the car. Another cinder cone in the distance. I'm not sure what the name of that one is. And there's some rain. It's still the monsoon. The monsoon season this year has been relatively active. There's a lizard. And as we walk back, remember to watch your step. There's another alligator juniper. Those are just beautiful trees. It's steep coming down, so take it slow. And just like there were great views coming up, there's even better views coming down because you're looking back at what you left behind, basically. And so you get great views toward the south, towards the city of Flagstaff, toward Mount Eldon. And with this evening light, it really was something. And again, it was just very lush at the time that I went, with all of this plant growth, with all of the purple flowers and whatnot. There's another lizard. What did I tell you? I practice what I preach. I'm smelling the bark because it smells phenomenal. It smells so good. And here I'm going to check out this tree that got split in two by what I'm assuming is a bolt of lightning. it really is something when you think about it. Like, can you imagine? I would have loved to have been there when it happened. And there's some deer, mule deer, that I spooked as I walked up to that tree. Look at that sap, that resin. Beautiful. You got to stop and smell the roses, you know? Sometimes it is important to get off trail and explore the things that you think are interesting. But anyways, as we're walking back, we get back to this flatter section and we see the great tall ponderosas, and we thank ourselves for coming to this place that we enjoyed so much. So that was the Old Caves Crater Trail, specifically the Summit Trail. Like I said, you can combine it with other trails in the area and make it a loop, make it as long as you want, basically. But I just did the out and back. And as we're coming back to the little gravel lot here, you can see it was a little under 2.5 miles, and I dilly-dallied a lot, and it took me like an hour and 15 minutes. So there you go. Thanks for taking along, guys. I had a great time.